Hi, everyone. Welcome to Mini Scroll, the daily internet culture podcast bringing you the biggest stories from social media, the creator economy, and the digital space every Monday through Thursday. I'm your host, Lauren Meisner, the founder of the youth digital media brand Centennial World. Welcome back to Mini Scroll, everyone. I just saw right before we started that Taylor Frankie Paul, this is not an official story because I literally just saw it, but Taylor Frankie Paul has confirmed, I think it's an Us Weekly exclusive. She said, "We are not fully together, but we are not fully done," regarding her relationship with Dakota. So that is just like a little continuation of yesterday's story. All right, let's just get right into the stories for today. So I have a couple updates about Brianna Chickenfry. And I wanted to say before I start, I feel like kind of weird talking about Brianna, and I don't know why, because like she is a fully fledged internet celebrity now, but I think she's so divisive, and even though she's definitely done some really shitty things publicly, I do think she's one of those influencers that in the eye of the public, she can never win, and so there's just certain influencers or creators or even celebrities like that where I just feel bad piling on, even if sometimes it is a bit deserved. However, she is also now dating a country music star who I would consider is like on his way to being A-list, if not already A-list. Maybe A-list is a little bit extreme, but I think he's on his way to being A-list. So of course the microscope is on her like times 100 now because of that relationship. So I didn't talk about this on Mini Scroll last week because it was, I guess, before I came back from my break. But anyways, I'm sure most of us know this part of the story, but Bryan, who is Brianna's boyfriend, the country music star, he made this weird tweet about Taylor Swift last Tuesday. So he wrote, "Eagles, Chiefs," as in like Eagles, like better than Chiefs. "Kanye better than Taylor, who's with me?" This tweet was met with so much backlash given how Kanye has treated Taylor over the years. Obviously, he's been going through his shit, but that doesn't excuse the fact that he's been like openly anti-Semitic. He's been openly posting very horrible things about Kim Kardashian and her family. She's the mother of his children. So Zach, not only comparing Taylor and Kanye given their history, but also just given Kanye's recent behavior with people were kind of like, okay, this is not it. This is problematic. So he deleted that, and then he took to Instagram stories to correct himself. He said, "I never want anyone to think I have a hint of malice or meanness towards anyone ever. I've been going through a hard time in my own life, and I think I was projecting a little. To be completely honest, it just came off as rude and desensitized to Taylor. I respect her so much as a musician that the last thing I want is people thinking I don't appreciate and love what she has done for music." And then he repeated twice, "Don't drink and tweet." And then he deactivated Twitter. Okay, so following this, Redditors started keeping track of how Brianna was interacting with Zach online. And I think because Brianna is like a pop culture commentator on the BFFs podcast, I don't want to say there's more, maybe there is more scrutiny around her relationship with Zach because he is obviously like a pop culture figure now, like he is a celebrity. But I think there's also always a lot of eyes on how she deals with situations like this because typically if she wasn't dating Bryan, they probably would have talked about it, right? Redditors started keeping track of how Brianna was interacting with Zach online, and I guess this spawned a lot of theories that they had split. However, when people posted about this speculative split, especially on TikTok, those videos were soon deleted. So now this has turned into like a conspiracy theory on TikTok that someone on either Brianna's team or Zach's team is getting these videos taken down. I personally believe that that's not the case. I think these videos are speculative. There is no indication that they have split aside from people investigating and putting certain pieces together. And so because it's so speculative, I think Bryan fans and Brianna fans are coming in the comments. And I think that these people that are posting these videos are just getting a lot of backlash and hate, so they remove them. That's my theory on that. And I do see how it's different. Like when I talked about Taylor and Dakota yesterday, possibly having broken up, that kind of speculation doesn't receive as much backlash because Taylor posted a TikTok that was so clearly something. Like she was so clearly hinting at something that their relationship was not fully what it used to be. And then all of her friends were commenting and stuff. But like Brianna and Zach, nothing like that has happened with them. So if they have split or they are going through issues, like they've kept that offline. So that is why people, I guess, are more like protective of that. The second update related to Brianna is that influencer Eurich has shared a story on the most recent episode of her podcast, Dumb or Blonde, about kind of a bad experience she had with Brianna. And in turn, Grace O'Malley, who co-hosts Plan Brie with her, but more so Brianna, it seemed. So Ken did not name Brianna, but everyone, it's been a few days since Ken's episode went up. I think it was actually a week, but a few days after it went up, everyone like put the pieces together and was like, oh, this is about Brianna. She talks about how they met on this Tarte brand trip. It didn't seem like Brianna liked her, but then Brianna asked her to do like a TikTok together. And then she also asked her later to join a live show of her podcast, Plan Brie. So she was like, oh, okay, this is kind of confusing, but I guess she likes me. So Ken said she showed up to the live show. She's like, I was high. Everyone was like so drunk, like as in the audience and stuff. And then I guess Brie was like, what topics are off limits for you? Is anything off limits? She gave them 2 topics that were off limits. And she says that Brianna brought up one of them on stage on the live show. And she basically just explained how she felt like she was brought on the live show to be made fun of and to be embarrassed. And I actually wanted to use these updates as a jumping off point because I saw a TikTok yesterday by Caro. Oh my God, I forget what her full name is, but I'll put her on the screen here. So Caro, she makes a lot of content about pop culture. She has a podcast. She talks also about like trad wives a lot. So we've referenced her content over the course of like us talking about trad wives and Ballerina Farm and all of that. Back in August, when all of the Blake Lively stuff was happening, she made a video asking if we think celebrities absorb any of the criticism that they receive, or if when they are like in the eye of the storm when it comes to like cancel culture, if they tend to go more into like the victim mentality. And this is actually not super relevant to the Brianna updates because Brianna's definitely not being canceled for any of this stuff that I just talked about. But I think it's an interesting point to bring up that celebrities, I believe, they get an influx of feedback constantly. And so it's hard. I think I've talked about this so many times on the podcast, but I think it's really hard to differentiate for anyone between valid criticism, like constructive criticism, and hate. And so I think it's just easier for them to kind of lump any type of criticism together as hate. Like it is just like a blanket hate. And it's self-preservation because we shouldn't be, having that many opinions about ourselves thrown at us that frequently. So I feel like it's almost innate because at a certain level of fame, you probably cannot, like your brain probably cannot process the amount of feedback that you are constantly getting. And therefore, your brain probably automatically, it has to go into self-preservation mode. And so being able to like ignore or dismiss certain feedback as hate is just so much easier for the human, like the human body, if that makes sense. And while that doesn't necessarily have much to do with the Brianna thing, I think it's interesting because from my perspective, Brianna, she's always been really larger than life, but she's also always had this really humble side. And I think there's a lot of discourse now about how like fame and dating Zach and all of this has like gone to her head. And honestly, I think it would go to a lot of people's heads. I do. And I think it is just another example of kind of that animalistic response that we have to constant stimuli, to constant feedback, because these people are getting constant criticism, but they're also getting constant praise and love and surrounded by yes men who are telling them that they're the best. And they have millions of people that are also telling them that they're the best, that like listen to them every week and whatever. So yeah, I think when it comes to how influencers or celebrities act, I don't think we can be surprised if they're not always coming off as the nicest people. Okay, the next story that I have for you guys is that TikTok creator Vi Luong has created a multi-part series calling out influencer Yuyi Chua for plagiarizing her content. So Vi is a creator with almost 1 million followers. Her vibe is like your digital big sis. So she makes like lifestyle content, self-improvement content, that type of stuff. 3 days ago, she started posting this series where she has mapped out how this other creator, Yuyi, has copied her content. Many of the videos are word for word, frame for frame, the same writing on top of the TikTok videos, the same mannerisms. Like, it is actually wild. So Vi posted this because another creator named Taylor Tominskis made a video saying that Yuyi was copying her. So Vi was like, I knew this day would come. I knew other people would cotton on to this. I was her first target in 2020. Here's my story type of thing. So Yuyi has grown a platform of nearly 300,000 on TikTok and almost 200,000 on Instagram from allegedly copying different people's content. Vi says that every few months, Yuyi picks a new creator to copy, and she's basically been doing this for years. So Vi explains that she called Yuyi out. She basically sent her DMs when she realized this was happening. She said they were mutuals. Yuyi found her, would message her. She actually called it love bombing, and Yuyi only had 2,000 followers at the time. So she was an aspiring creator. Hey girl, I saw this reel and wanted to ask you about it since it's word for word a TikTok I made very recently. I totally understand if you feel inspired, but everything down to the song choice is the same. It is also titled the same as my series that I now have 5 parts on. I was hoping you have an explanation for this. And then Yuyi responded, hey girl, I'll be sure to tag you in posts inspired by you. It kept happening, I guess. So she's she just kept copying my content and then tagging me. Vi said, integrity when it comes to content creation is a thing, and it is hurtful to me for someone I considered an internet friend to blatantly replicate a content series of mine down to every single aspect of the video. Did you not expect me to see it? I also wanted to say thank you for tagging me, but I think you also need to understand that a lot of this doesn't feel right. The exact replica, the copying of a series, the lack of accountability, the deleting of comments / filtering out my name, etc. If the situation was flipped, how would you feel? No hate whatsoever, because I have respect for you, seeing as you have followed each other for a long time, but I would appreciate it if I could be extended the same respect and encourage you to also explore spinning it in a way that makes it your own. She goes on to say she doesn't want to make it public, and then Yuyi says, I appreciate that you've reached out to me, but honestly, I have not seen attempts to open dialogue with me in good faith. Before you gave me a chance to respond, you had already involved several of your influencer friends. After I tagged you, there were still attempts at public callouts. I want to believe that you have meaningful intentions, but at the same time, your last message is a kindly worded threat. Okay, so Vi was basically she gaslit me and then made me question everything I was sending to her, if she was actually copying me. And then Vi said before Yuyi blocked her, she basically accused her of using her power as an influencer to bully a college student who is just trying to make it online. And I think this is an important story. It happens so much in the creator space, in the media space, in journalism. Blatant plagiarism is an ongoing issue. It is a very consistent issue. So if you guys see it, you have to call it out. Something similar, not to this scale, but something similar happened to us with one of our podcast episodes. A bigger creator plagiarized a big portion of our script, and it was kind of the same thing. We are a very small media company. I wish I could explain to you guys how small and how little money we make. But because we have a company behind us, we were accused of bullying this creator who has a much bigger platform, a much bigger following. We were accused of using AI, which we have never used AI to write any of our podcast scripts. It just ended up not being worth the risk of any of this spinning out of control. So yes, it is an ongoing problem, and this is wild though. This is if you guys look, Yuyi's videos are literally the exact same. It's a copy and paste. There's not even any type of trying to make it your own. It is very, very wild. So if Vi posts anything else about this, I'll keep you guys updated. But for now, definitely go to her TikTok and check it out. It's honestly fascinating. It's horrible, but it's very fascinating to see how this is happening and how blatant it is. The last story that I have for you guys is we need to talk about how the Nutter Butter TikTok is going viral because it is so insane. So for context, I often get asked by brands that we consult for, what is it that Gen Z wants from a brand on TikTok? And obviously there's no easy answer to that because it all depends on what your brand does, what you sell, and like the capacity or like the capabilities of your team. Like not every company can make funny behind the scenes at the office content because that's just like not how your team is structured. You don't have anyone on your team that would want to do that, like whatever, right? So a blanket rule that I would say is that young people want brands to show up on TikTok and be incredibly unserious. So young people don't look to brands for inspiration or aspiration anymore the way that millennials did. You'll find a lot more cut through if your brand is self-aware, which I know is a weird thing to say about a brand. But no one is under the impression anymore that engaging with a brand or purchasing from a brand will get them closer to some type of like aspirational lifestyle. Like we just don't buy into, the culture, the community, the subculture that brands curated for us in the 2000s and 2010s. But anyway, so, the consumer brands, I think, doing their best on TikTok are not trying to force anything. They are not taking themselves too seriously. They're having fun. They're being unhinged. And Nutter Butter is the most recent good example of that. So user Cassie Fitzwater brought the account into kind of like the zeitgeist when she made a video that went viral asking if Nutter Butter is okay.
If you guys have not seen Nutter Butter's official account on here, I need you to stop what you're doing and go look at it. I'm concerned. Nutter Butter, are you guys okay?
Now everyone is going to the account to check it out. So they make videos that border on like conspiracy or like altered reality. Like their videos are in the style of like really creepy horror accounts, and they always have the logo or like the little mascot. And then it just like devolves into something deeper and weirder and like more sinister. It almost feels like you're watching a video where you're like on psychedelics and you're learning about Slender Man for the first time. Like that's the vibe of their videos. It's literally insane. And it's so far outside the box of like what you would expect a brand to post. Like this brand sells peanut butter cookies. Like they sell cookies. And it makes no sense, but it also makes so much sense. And it doesn't work, but it also works. And the reason why I say it doesn't work is because to me, this feels a little bit more like Reels coded. I don't know if you guys spent any time on Reels instead of TikTok, but Reels is significantly weirder, more unhinged. It's just like brain rot. Whereas like TikTok, if you're scrolling the For You page, you will get a lot of like valid content mixed in with some of the brain rot. And the brain rot is not as obscure on TikTok as it is on Reels. And I actually think the reason why Nutter Butter is possibly going this direction is like in this like extreme brain rot direction. It kind of reminds me of Skibbity Toilet. Like it gives that creepy, sinister energy. And I'm going to say it's because they are a cookie brand and they're trying to appeal to Gen Alpha. I do think this like really unhinged brain rot is how to reach Gen Alpha, at least for now, while they're still so young. That's my theory on it, but you guys have to check this account out. It is so, so wild, and maybe it will give you guys some ideas if you work in social. Anyways, guys, that's it for today. Thank you so much for listening. Please remember to rate, review, and subscribe. It helps me so much. It helps me grow. I love you guys, and I will talk to you tomorrow. Bye.